Hey guys, Rick Stone here from Stony Acres Gardening. Welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about cover crops, and a big thank you to Trueleaf Market, who is actually sponsoring this video. We're going to talk about growing some cover crops. So I've got a little bit of a unique situation going on in my garden this year. This bed is where I had my peas. In fact, we just took them out last night, and so it's ready to be replanted in something, but according to my rotation, this is supposed to be my fall and winter carrot and spinach bed. So we're going to plant spinach and carrots in this bed. It's too early. We're early July and it's way too early to get those planted. We're looking more like mid-August. So I've got about 35 to 40 days here where I don't have anything to put in this bed. And so I got talking with Trueleaf Market and we decided that we would try some cover crops in this bed. So what we're going to do is we're going to try buckwheat in this bed. So buckwheat is a fairly quick growing cover crop that is going to do several good things for our bed. Number one, we already have relatively heavy clay soil in our garden, and so that is going to help to loosen that soil up and help to, kind of break things up. It's going to be a good weed suppressor. It'll keep all of the regular weeds down, and then buckwheat also has some nitrogen enhancing and also phosphorus enhancing qualities as it's growing. So what we're going to do is we're going to try and get about 35 to 40 days growth on the buckwheat, and then we'll turn it in. The other nice thing about buckwheat is it's not one of those crops that you have to turn in and then wait 2 or 3 weeks before you plant. So I'll be able to just turn in, and then we'll be able to plant the spinach and the carrots in this bed right away. So we're going to go ahead and put some buckwheat in, and then this video is going to kind of be a playthrough over the next 4 to 6 weeks. We'll show the progress of how the buckwheat is growing, and then we'll actually turn it in and give you kind of some end results of what we felt like. So the very first thing I did after we cut the peas down, and you can see one of the things that we do when we cut our peas down is we cut them, we don't pull them, and so you can still see there's little stems and twigs and stuff in this bed, and that's okay because we want to leave that nitrogen that has been fixed from the peas in the soil as well. So I just simply took a minute and we raked this in a little bit. We want to break it up, soften that top layer of soil just a little bit so that we can get those buckwheat seeds to go in. And then buckwheat is actually really easy to sow. You don't have to do much of anything. We're just going to broadcast sow the buckwheat into this bed, and then I'm just going to carefully rake it in so that we get a little bit of soil on top of those seeds. Then we'll water it in and it'll just take off and start growing. We should see germination in about a week, and we should have a fairly decent sized cover crop that has grown up in about 35 to 40 days that we can then turn in to improve our soil as the fall approaches. So let's go ahead and get those seeds planted, and then we'll kind of follow up every week or two with you guys so that you can see the progress of the buckwheat as it grows over this kind of short-term experiment that we're doing. I thought I would give you guys a little bit of a play-by-play as we go through the different weeks so that you can see how the crop is progressing. So this is at 9 days, so you can see that they're up and doing pretty good, and they're actually edible at this stage. You could eat those as microgreens. Here we are at 15 days and put quite a bit of growth on, but look at this difference in just one more week at 21 days. Really filling in and looking really nice, progressing well. And then here we're at 28 days, and you can notice in this picture that we're starting to see the first of our blossoms. And that's important because when we get to 35 days, which is this picture, we're about 7 days past that blossom stage. Now it's time to turn the crop in so that those blossoms don't turn into seeds. So this, guys, is a additional advantage of growing buckwheat as a cover crop in your garden. I don't know if you can see this. I'm trying to get the video in here. It is currently just being swarmed with a bunch of different pollinators. So we've got bees. I've got just like 3 or 4 different varieties of bees. I've even seen some wasps in here. Look, there's a dragonfly. It is just swarming currently with pollinators. So a really good pollinator attractor to your garden, as well as a nice cover crop. So pretty awesome. All right, guys, so I'm pretty excited about this. We are exactly 36 days into this cover crop. I planted on July 5th. Today is August 11th, and look how well it has grown. In fact, more than I expected in such a short amount of time. I'm going to have a hard time dealing with all of the biomass and getting it all worked into the bed. I may end up putting some of it in my compost bin. We'll have to see. Looks really good. The key to buckwheat is you can't let it go too long in bloom. So you need to, once you start seeing blooms, you need to get it cut down and turned into the soil within about 7 days of those first blooms showing up, because otherwise you're going to get seed setting, and then you'll actually be tilling seeds into the ground. So is what we're going to do is we're going to go through and we're going to cut this patch down. You could have, there's a couple of different options once you cut it down. If you're not immediately going to be planting, you could just let it lay. It would continue to be a good mulch for a while. But we actually want to get this bed planted within the next 5 to 7 days. And so we're going to cut this down and we're actually going to work it into the soil. So a few different options for cutting it down. You could, of course, just use some of these guys and just come in and trim that down like this. This is a fairly decent sized bed, so I'm actually going to use my string trimmer and just quickly go through and cut it down, and then we'll come back and I'll show you how we're going to till it in. So the weed whacker made really quick work of this, although the hand clippers wouldn't have taken much longer either. So what we're going to do now is we are just going to go through this bed and turn all the biomatter into the soil, and we're going to have to work it in. It's going to take me a minute to do it. If there's any leftover that is really obnoxious, I may just put that in the compost bin, but we're going to try and work this into the soil as best we can. Let it sit for 4 or 5 days, and then we should be able to get this bed planted. So guys, this was a fun experiment, and I am very happy with how it turned out. I was really surprised that at 36 days we were as tall as we ended up being. I feel like that maybe I'd have been a little bit better off if I cut it off a week sooner. So I think next year when I do the same thing, I may go 30 days instead of 36 days, just because I had a lot of stemmy biomass here that I had to mix into the soil. Now, I'm not going to plant for 2 or 3 more days, and so that will give this a chance to kind of die off and settle in, and I'll rake the bed and everything, so I think we're going to be in pretty good shape. But overall, I think maybe I'd have gone 30 days instead of the 36 days that I did in this scenario. But overall, super happy, lots of biomass. Remember that buckwheat helps to pull phosphorus out of the soil, and so when we work that back in, it releases phosphorus into the soil, which is super good for it. A couple of other things that you need to make sure that you're aware of. So a pound of seed will do about 300 to 500 square feet, okay? So one bag like this that I got from Trueleaf Market is going to probably do 5 of these total plantings overall is about what we're going to need. So it goes a long ways. Again, super fast to germinate, was really, really nice. So these bags, the little 1-pound bags that you can get from Trueleaf Market, are just under $8 for a 1-pound bag, and I think that this would do a home gardener really well. They do sell them in bigger quantities. They have 25-pound bags and 5-pound bags as well that you could use, but I think this little 1-pound bag is a great solution for most home gardeners. So really good, really happy. This was a fun experiment. I'm glad I decided to do it. It kept the soil in good shape. There's not a single weed in here. It's just the buckwheat that actually grew during this whole time. So really happy with overall performance of how this went. I think it was a good experiment and we had a lot of fun. One other thing that I did want to make sure that you guys were aware of is buckwheat is a frost sensitive cover crop. So we're not, if you want to have a big stand like this, you don't plant it in the fall. This is normally what you would consider either a spring or summer cover crop. You need to grow it after your frost or before your frost. Now, one nice thing about that is that you could plant it later in the summer and then just let the frost kill it. That's a good way to deal with it as well. But make sure you recognize this is a frost-sensitive cover crop, so you are not going to be planting this late in the summer and expect to get a good stand like that, because as soon as the frost comes, it's going to kill it off. All right, so if you guys have any more questions about how the buckwheat went, and what I did, go ahead and leave those in the comments. Make sure that you get subscribed to my channel and go follow us over on Instagram as well. Another big thanks to Trueleaf Market, who is the sponsor of this video. If you would like to buy some buckwheat, then you can click on the link down in the description of this video, and that will take you over and you can buy it straight from the Trueleaf Market site. All right, well, that's all I have for you for this week. Everybody make sure you have a great week, and we'll talk to you later. Happy gardening.